Now I'm going to mix some of the background colors, say as a first layer, but this is really going to be more of an alla prima painting, I think. Alla prima meaning all at once without doing an underpainting. And another thing, for a more intricate scene, I would have mixed, I would have done a sketch, pencil sketch, and I'm a proponent of that. But this one was so obvious, and for the class, I thought it might just be easier to go ahead and just paint straight from the photograph. So I'm starting to mix the grass color, which it doesn't have much color, but yet I don't want it to be a brown. I'm not a brown, but a blackish color either. So I'm mixing a dark green, which I'm going to put on, and might keep it, might not. I'm going to also mix sort of some brownish earth tone color, taking a little bit of my darkest umber. It's burnt umber, a little bit of raw sienna, and a little bit of Naples yellow. So I'm going to mix an earth color, maybe a little bit more of this yellow. I know I mentioned before that I really like mixing colors. That's one of the fun things about doing oils. So I put a little oil on my brush and dipping into this earth tone color. And I'm going to do on this side, I'm just going to put it down fairly thinly. I don't want it too dark because when I put the dark trunk in, I want that to stand out. There are some things that stick up, but they're not that important to the work. I'm going to put some over here. This side is more grass, more green. And there are a few bushes right here that have all dried up because this is a winter. This is really, I think the photograph was taken in December. So it's an early winter kind of scene. I'm using the same brush, but now I'm going to start applying some of the green. At some point, probably when I'm finished this, I will paint the sides of this. And I will probably frame it with a floating frame of some sort, which will show the edges of the sides. So I'm going to want the sides to be painted with that type of frame. And the shoreline is rough, so I don't have to have a strong line for it. Back into the bronze burnt umber mix. This is just, looking a little muddy, and that's what I want at this stage. So that didn't take long. I'll go over it later. But just want to get, so that I can judge the watercolor and the sky. So I just want something down at this stage. I'm going to probably come down with this tree, but for now, it's going to be like that. Get a fresh brush. Okay, so now I'm going to put the sky and the water in. They say for landscapes, it's best to put your darks in first, but I like to get my background set for early on. And so right now I'm doing the background for the water, and then I'll put the tree branches in, the darkness of the tree branches. The background for the water and the background of the sky. I'm mixing with my palette knife, but you can always later go back in with, just mix with your brush. And I've got a good, pretty good watercolor. So I got a clean brush. I'm going to put this in fairly thinly. Again, using that similar technique. I may decide to make this a little more turquoisey, but for now it's going to stay. It's like a lavenderish blue, which at sunset, if you look at the water, you're frequently going to see that kind of a color. So I'm trying to stand back so that I can see the composition. It looks a little flat, and it may stay that way, or maybe not, but the reason I would keep it that way possibly is because I want to concentrate on the trunks. I mean, it's all about the trunks. The water is a background kind of thing. But I might put more waves, whatever, into the water. Now the sky. Because this is a dusk painting, we got some light on the horizon. Not sure I want to keep it as light as it's shown in the photograph, but I'm going to start out that way. I can always paint over it. So I'm using a little bit of cadmium yellow pale, a little bit of Naples yellow, and a little bit of white. I'm just going to put a little line. The other thing is that the camera will register a different color than what the eye sees. At least mine. I use my phone camera mostly. So what looks yellow might have been more orange. Or, I mean, that follows true with a lot of sky color using a camera, which is, you know, certainly makes a case for doing plein air or painting outside. Live, shall we say. I'm just going to mix a little bit of orange with that and just kind of lightly, I hope, lightly go over it. little bit more of a, what I just said, the actual, what it might have was. The next thing I need to do is to put the clouds in. I'm not sure. It comes out looking very lavender. I'm not sure I want all those waves of the clouds. I might just want a good pinkish lavender to go in here. So I'm going to take the blue I used already for the water and a big dab of white. I'm using my brush this time. Take a little drop of of red to make a more pink. And that's alizarin crimson permanent. Mixing a lot of white in with that, using some oil. And I'm starting up here because I'm going to need, I think that's a little too, I'll put it in anyway, but it might be just a little too lavender, too close to the color of the water. Although the water is what is reflected in the sky. Okay, I'm going to sort of mix that over again. A little more pink. Alizarin crimson is a color that's incredibly saturated. So it takes, I should have used just a tinier drop. It takes quite a lot of white to make the color I'm looking for, which is a pink. So I'm just going to go on the edge of that color. Okay. So I'm coming up with a pink, and I'm just going to try to lightly put that in, at least for the bottom. Then I think I'll probably put some more of this blue. When you're painting, you're using, you need to put a lot of white on your palette, because white is something that you just use a lot. So I've got a different brush, dip it in a little oil and a little bit of solvent. I've managed to pick up the wrong brush, but I think it's working out. This was a brush that had some of this orange on it, but it's probably not a bad idea. I just put a little orange into the pink. So I'll go ahead and just kind of going over the edges of that. So I just grabbed a little more of this orange that I had on my palette, And I'm mixing it in with the green. I'm going to put it in up here, and a little more in here. One thing that's good about painting a landscape from a photograph is that your scene is going to be constant. Whereas if you're outdoors painting, the sky changes very quickly. Now I'm going to take that same brush, go into the color of the water, and start putting some of it into the sky. I'm going to dip in, get a little bit of cobalt blue. Just kind of mix that brush all around and start putting it in. Oops, too dark. Need a little more white. I'll just grab some of the pink that I made and more white. At some point soon, I'm going to need to put more white on my palette. I'm running out of it. And it's definitely not this baby blue color. But that's it, I'm putting it in. And actually, I may be taking it out, but it's going to get deeper and darker as it goes, as you get higher to the sky. But this should dry pretty quickly and I'll be able to go over it. So I said I wasn't going to be doing an underpainting, but it looks like I am. An underpainting is where you're laying down a layer of color as a guideline. I did an underpainting in black and white for my still life, in the still life class. So most of what I'm putting in I will go over, unless when I look at it, I'm satisfied with the color. And if I cover over any of the branch areas, I can go back and decide if I'm going to put them back in. What I'm hoping is not to have it look like daylight.
3, 2, 1.
Okay. So I'm going to continue with this baby blue color. I don't want it to look like daylight, but I also don't want it to look like the sun is already set. I did what I think is a nice painting of some tree limbs where the sun had already set, but that in that one the emphasis was more on the sky. This one, I want the emphasis to be on the tree, but yet, it has to be kind of realistic. Although I'm not unhappy with this as it's going. You have to always stand back a little bit. And sometimes, actually, you have to invent. I'm seeing a place where I'm going to have to invent a branch. And once I get the sky in, I'm going to put that in. I've had the photograph of this in my phone since early December, and I've looked at it and looked at it. So it just became something I really wanted to paint. I'm not sure it's going to be something that people want to buy, but it's for me. So So that's what I'm doing. The reason I say that, I have no idea, but maybe people don't want winter tree branches, I don't know. We'll see. Coming down into the pink a little bit. I've still got the brush with some of that pink on it, so I want to just kind of make it look like it naturally follows. I mean, like it naturally graduates. So I find doing a painting like this is less exacting than doing a still life. I mean, it's not as detailed. Yeah, I should say that, though. Okay, I'm going to set these brushes aside. I'm going to rinse them a little bit in the solvent and wipe them. Because now I want to pull that other branch out that's imaginary. It's going to be a fictitious branch. I'm going to use this little brush like an eraser. And I need to figure out where. The thing is, I thought this side of the picture is just so blank. But I don't want to make it too intricate. But I think it needs something. So I come up like this and kind of erase the blue paint. Take my paper towel and follow along. And then I'll take it, might as well use the same brush. And get a little bit more of that brownie color, a little dark. So I'm just examining my picture. You need to always step back from your painting and take a look at it and see what you think it needs, or if you're pleased with the composition. I think maybe I need to straighten up the shoreline, the horizon of the water. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with it. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to use a different brush. And I'm going to just mix a little bit more of this watercolor blue, lavenderish blue, grayish blue. And hopefully, now there are trees on the other side. This is Breton Bay, by the way. And I could go right into the tree because that'll get covered over. Now, take a look and see if it looks pretty even to me. Doesn't have to be perfect.
you.